And what is going on, everyone? And welcome to a very special edition of Houston Texans football on Bleacher Report. I am one part of your show, Ruben Carvillo, joined by the man himself, Harley Dugan, at TheLead _ on YouTube. First of all, brother, how's it going? 2024 season comes to an end. Philadelphia Eagles, Super Bowl champs, belt to ass last night against the Kansas City Chiefs.
Felt good watching that. I ain't gonna lie. I was petty. I was petty as I can be. I don't want Charles Omenihu winning another Super Bowl. I don't want Justin Reed winning another Super
What
Bowl.
is your beef with Charles or Mini man?
I,
Because
you know,
because this isn't a new beef, Harley. Y'all been
no,
going at it for years.
no, yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. He upset because he knows I could beat him in Madden. We were in a Madden league a while back when he was a Houston Texan. And we talk some trash, healthy trash talk. Nothing crazy, nothing stupid. And it just went to he wanted a certain player off my team. I forgot who it was. And I told him, well, if I'm going to trade a high profile player, then I want a high profile player back, and he was like, oh, that's not how things work. I'm in the NFL. Like, I know how GMs work. And he only been in the NFL for like 2 years.
Okay.
I'm like, bro, there ain't no way you don't know what a GM is in only 2 years of your NFL
So
life.
there's
Because
lore to this beef.
oh yeah, so that's what made me laugh, and then we got into some real talk, and I told him, bro, you're nobody right now, man. Like, how can you be telling me all this and you're a nobody? And he's like, oh, I made it to the NFL. When you make it to the NFL, you're automatically a somebody, and I'm like, cool, go tell the other people that didn't make it in the NFL that, like, I mean, obviously he's had a successful career, but I mean, I know a lot more about it. I know him during his time at UT. I know a lot of stuff that I told him that he didn't like to hear because he knew it was the truth. So, it is what it is. So yeah, me and Charles Manny do not like each other, and he knows it because he tweeted at me years ago, called me goofy, because he said that he was holding up a block for his linebackers, and he was getting folded like a lawn chair, So, and yeah, he's hated me ever since, and I do not like him. I don't want him to win another ring. I don't want Justin Reed to win another ring. I didn't want DeAndre Hopkins to win a ring. I didn't want it. That's one more than Andre. I don't want that. I know he ain't good as Andre, but
Uh,
I don't want him to get a Super Bowl ring.
Fair.
I'm petty.
Jason has a great question. Um, Been a fan since 2021. Am I a bandwagon fan? I would say no because you came when the team was, some garbage, right?
Yeah,
It'll
right.
be different if you came during year one of CJ Stroud. Um, but trust me, if there's one thing the Houston Texans don't have, it's bandwagons, man. A lot of the fans here, they've been, ace until they drown. Colts fans said stop smoking. Texans have no business in this conversation. Well, Colts fan, every other content creator on Bleach Report will be having this conversation today. So
No.
Hardy, let's get to it. Right? Like this is the
I
topic
mean,
of this.
yeah, like we just made this up. Like,
Mm.
no, Bleach Report told us, hey, why don't he? They told not us. They told all other 31 other content creators at the very least. Hey, this is your topic. Why don't y'all talk about it?
Okay.
And I'll tell you one thing, if we're for sure, you can go ahead and put thank you fans Colts post already because there ain't no damn way they're going to be entering this conversation going into 2025. Let's be real about that.
Mm. Worry about your podcasting linebackers, right? Before
Mm,
before you speak to us, right? I'm not
they got to
worried
be
about
worried about whether or
Zaire
not
Franklin.
Pat McAfee's going to be back in their little section or
Mm.
not.
Houston Texans, how did they get to the Super Bowl in 2025? Well, Samuel brings up the first point, and
Yes.
that is fixing the offensive line. So of course, this is where I say, your first step has to improve the O-line unit. It was one of the worst in the NFL. CJ Stroud was the second most sacked quarterback in the NFL. But this is how I do it, Harley. I'm having Titus Howard go to left guard. So my offensive line next year will be Laramie Tunsil, Titus Howard, Juice Scruggs, either a rookie or a free agent signing at the right guard position, and Blake Fisher in year two as my right tackle. I think that might be the best case scenario for the offensive line going forward into 2025. But you have to fix the O line, man. It's the foundation of the offense. We saw Patrick Mahomes run for his life last night because his O line couldn't block worth the crap. Hey, CJ Stroud was dealing with that all season, man. Number 5 is fixing the offensive line and it working, right? Because these are 5 ways the Texans get to the Super Bowl where your offensive line got it going and it was able to keep CJ Stroud upright.
Yeah, I think O line is the number one thing to fix. And when it really comes down to it, O line is everything. And if there's anything we saw in the Super Bowl last year, to your point, and last year, just yesterday, to your point, you talked about Patrick Mahomes running for his life. The pressure rate was extremely high for Patrick Mahomes, and that was something where you mentioned CJ Stroud had gone through his entire year was horrible offensive line play, and coincidentally, CJ Stroud had a sophomore slump. Coincidentally, the Chiefs have their worst offensive
Mm-hmm.
line play of the year. And coincidentally, Patrick Mahomes, the new GOAT, came out and had the worst game of his career.
Mm. Am I a bandwagon if I became a fan in early 2023? So yeah. So just last season, but I live in Houston. I don't know. I gotta see who you were rooting for, prior to 2023.
PFP,
Um,
though.
right?
I,
Had
I
to.
like the JJ PFP. I appreciate it, Nathan. I appreciate it.
Yeah. The GOAT, as in Harley's mind. But
And,
number
and every
four for
Texans fans, man.
what happened?
Every Texans fans, man. So
Oh,
JJ Watt's to go.
okay. Number 4. Why the Houston Texans will get to the Super Bowl. How about we have a year where we are healthy?
Mm,
Because the past 2 seasons, I mean, dear God, the Houston Texans injuries have just piled up.
that
Year
sucks.
one, your entire offensive line did not play one game together. Tank Dell fractured his fibula against the Jacksonville Jaguars, during the middle of the season. It was only CJ Stroud, Nico Collins, and Dawson Schultz. That was it for CJ Stroud, at the end of the season in year one. This year, Stephon Diggs, torn ACL. Tank Dell, horrific lower leg injury. We don't even know if he's going to be back next season, right? We saw Cecil Shorts tweet out that that's the same injury that ended my career. So there's a good chance Tank Dell is not playing in 2025. Like, I feel like a year where the Houston Texans can finally get healthy, maybe we start to see some good football on the field.
And yeah, and health is always a factor. And, it's tough to say that's the Super Bowl goal because there's nothing controlling that at the end of the day. You hope that the team is healthy. You hope that they have a stroke of, luck on their side and they're
Mhm.
blessed to have a healthy season. So, yeah, I mean, obviously, when you're looking at the Eagles defense, it was for the most part, the majority of their defense healthy. You
Mm,
know, Texans, I would have loved to seen Jalen Petrie and Jimmy Ward in that Chiefs game in the playoffs. I would have liked to seen how different the defense plays with them guys on the field, because we know how this defense can get going, especially with Jalen Petrie on the field.
mhm,
And then you add Jimmy Ward, both of them guys right away. I mean, you're changing how you play this defense linebacker wise. Jalen Petrie's more in the box. You're really
mhm,
just going to shut down the run game to its tiresome. And then you add Jimmy Ward, who you would feel more confident than Eric Murray, no offense. And Eric Murray's played well, but Jimmy Ward, I feel more confident in him. The pairing of him and Kalen Bullock, Jalen Petrie in the box, yeah. The defense being healthy would have been awesome. And then you talked about the offense, the wide receiver group, man. I am tired of back-to-back years in the playoffs, and it's just Nico Collins and a bunch of ragtags,
Mm-hmm.
and it's is it disrespectful to Robert Woods and Hutch and Metch? Yeah, a little bit, but I'm sorry guys, y'all can't get open, and I'm looking for guys to get open, and the
Mm-hmm.
guys that are going to get open, like Stephon Diggs and Tank Dell, both fell down with injuries and ultimately derailed this offense, as well as obviously the main issue, the offensive line. But I mean, yeah, man, health is a key factor for this Texans team.
It's just, I was watching both squads, play yesterday and thinking, man, these guys are healthy. Their key players are out there, right? For the Eagles, Devontae Smith, AJ Brown, Saquon Barkley, they're there. For Pat Mahomes, Travis Kelsey, DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, the Chiefs offense, they weren't anything electric, but they were there at the end of the season. Um, Health has to be just
Mhm.
maybe next year it falls into favor. I mean, you would hope so, right? The previous 2 years, you've been banged up since training camp. Number three for me, Harley. I don't know
Mhm.
about you, but I think it's Nick Caley, our new offensive coordinator. Los Angeles Rams tight ends coach, pass game coordinator. We are seeing his staff being built. Um, if Nick Caley comes in and brings that Los Angeles Rams offense and it's successful, and you have CJ Stroud, I'm sorry, Nico Collins, Joe Mixon, it's going to be real scary.
Yeah, man, Nick Caley is definitely an X factor. And for D'Amico Ryans' sake and his overall future as a head coach, he better hope Nick Caley is the answer at offensive coordinator, or else that seat will get immediately hot for him. But Nick Caley, we all hoping that this is the answer offensively. This is the answer for CJ Stroud, Joe Mixon, Nico Collins, and ultimately the final answer and solution
Hmm.
to solving what was the offensive line just problems everywhere. It was ridiculous how bad this offensive line was. The combination of him, Cole Popovich, we're hoping that both of them can solve these O line issues and make it to where the Houston Texans,
Mm.
if they just have at the very least a top 15 offense, you're looking at this team at the very least in the AFC Championship game, because that defense paired with a top 15 offense. I'm not saying great offense, I'm not saying a legendary offense. You just give me a good enough offense. This team is going to go farther than what people will expect
Mm.
them to go. And Nick Caley, buddy, you got to figure it out.
And here's the thing, you look at the weapons that he has: CJ Stroud, Nico Collins, Joe Mixon. Say what you want, but a year ago, Dalton Schultz was a reliable tight end for us, and he looked like he gave a damn out there.
Yeah.
Nick Caley brings that fire back into this Houston Texan offense, man. And, like you are saying, we don't have to be a top three, top five. I mean, I would love that from a Nick Caley led offense in year one. But just like you said, if we're middle in the pack, right? It was the conversation that we had with the potential of bringing in Chip Kelly. And you look at the resume he had, and fourth offense in Philly, third offense, in Philly, third. If we had the 13 offense, this season in Houston, who knows how it would have played out.
Yeah.
But Nick Caley, man, it brings me to my next question. Seems like his staff is being completed, right? I feel like it's
Mhm.
80% of the way done. You brought up Cole Popovich, the new offensive line coach and pass game coordinator. I'm sorry, run game coordinator.
Mhm.
Gerard Johnson is staying as the quarterback coach for the Houston Texans. Now, I think there's a long term play here with Gerard Johnson. I think him and CJ Stroud are going to be, by each other's side for years to come. I think he might be a future offensive coordinator for the Houston Texans. And then Jerry Shuplinski. Now, we know he was a senior offensive assistant with the Los Angeles Rams. We don't know what he's going to be here yet. I mean, maybe pass game coordinator. What do you think?
Yeah, so Jerry Shuplinski was a senior offensive assistant with the LA Rams. It makes you wonder if Bill Lazor is still going to, end up being on this staff or not,
Hmm.
considering he has the same job title as Jerry Shuplinski.
Yeah.
Now, I wonder because, the Texans obviously have some sort of respect for Bill Lazor, considering that they had him, look at the offensive coordinator position when it was vacant. So
Hmm.
they obviously have something in line for him, maybe. I'm just assuming there, just an opinion. But yes, Gerard Johnson is supposed to be remaining as the Houston Texans quarterbacks coach. So you have Nick Caley at OC, Gerard Johnson as the quarterbacks coach, and then you got Jerry Shuplinski here in some sort of fashion. Cole Popovich is your offensive lines coach. The rest of this staff, I don't see much turning over. You
Hmm.
know, a lot of them have some sort of connection already to Nick Caley and
John
D'Amico
Carroll,
Ryan.
baby.
Hey, John Carroll and the New England Patriots connections too, So, um, so end of the day, you're looking at it like, okay, well, Nick Caley, a lot of these guys he's had already a working relationship with or has crossed their
Hmm.
paths in some sort of fashion, like Ben McDaniels is currently the wide receivers coach. Well, Ben McDaniels' brother is Josh McDaniels, and Nick Caley obviously knows who Josh McDaniels is, so
Hmm.
he's had to have some sort of indirect line towards Ben McDaniel. So, I don't see him moving on. Danny Barrett is a respectable running backs coach for many years. And Danny Barrett was here before D'Amico Ryans with Lovey Smith and David Coley. And, so Danny Barrett's not going to get changed. Like,
Mm.
he stayed on to three different coaching regimes now here in Houston. He's obviously respected, and he's also the assistant head coach as well. So Danny Barrett won't be changed. So that's running back coach and wide receiver coach there. The only thing you're looking at is who will be your tight ends coach.
Nick Caley, right?
I mean, yeah, he's going to have a say in that department, obviously. But I would have to dig deep into
Hmm.
who could possibly, be that tight ends coach for the Texans. I wouldn't mind. No, I wouldn't. I know it's not his position. I just wouldn't mind finding a way to get Mike Munchak on this staff.
I knew that's what you were gonna bring up, and I was like, well, how does that translate? He's an O line coach.
Yeah, he is an O-lines coach, but at the end of the day, it's still talking about blocking schemes and, protection sets. And if anything that Nick Caley loves to do is he loves to have tight ends that can block. Okay. And it's not like Mike Munchak's foreign to passing concepts, like he's not foreign to it at all. So, like, this is football at the end of the day. He's been in it his whole life. So I'm sure, besides just that, you still have who's going to be the pass game coordinator.
Hmm.
Is there any other offensive assistants that are going to join this staff? And that's something that you have to keep an eye on because ultimately those offensive assistants, A, they do get plucked, but B, one of those guys could end up being your offensive coordinator besides Gerard Johnson, of course,
Mm,
in the future.
of course, because we know Nick Caley is going to do fantastic things with the Houston Texan offense, and he's going to go get himself a head coaching job because his offense was so damn good. We're manifesting in, right? These are the Houston
Hopefully.
Texans' top 5 ways to get to the Super Bowl. Number 2 for me is key players getting better. I'm looking at the defensive side here. Derek Stingley finally getting the All Pro nomination. I think he's going to get better. Will Anderson Jr. entering his third year in the NFL. I'm going to put some money down for Will Anderson Jr. to win Defensive Player of the Year. You have Daniil Hunter for one more season. You had two edge rushers, Harley, with double digit sacks.
Mhm.
Aziz Al Shire, another year under head coach D'Amico Ryans. On the offensive side, Nico Collins, Blake Fisher, Juice Scruggs. I don't know why I threw Juice Scruggs in there, but hey, we need him to be better. I'm leaving CJ for last, and I was going to use him in, for number one and say why we would get to the Super Bowl is because of CJ. I mean, we could just talk about it right now. Year three, CJ Stroud, he needs to announce himself to the world, man. He needs to let everyone know that he is. I kind of feel like he already has, right? But kind of put himself into that top five conversation.
There we go.
And if we get a better CJ Stroud in year three, then this Houston Texans team could go as far as he can take them. CJ, you want to see him start to, I mean, I don't want to say put the franchise on his back because that's what he's been doing the past two seasons, and we're talking about a quarterback and who's been to, first 2 years in the league has been to the playoffs two times. It's crazy how we're talking about let's say CJ Stroud was a top 15 quarterback this year. Would you agree or worse? Would you put him in the
Top
20s?
15. Yeah, I would say he's top 15 quarterback after this year's play.
Right. You cement him,
Bottom
he
15.
cements himself into that top five in year
There we
three.
go.
We're looking fantastic as an organization.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, number two, talking about key players getting better, and obviously number one being CJ Stroud. But other guys to get better. You said Juice Scruggs. I think that would be a huge, huge, person to get better because that not only checks off number two, it also checks off the offensive line being an
Number
issue.
five.
Like,
Yeah.
So if Juice Scruggs, let's say with better coaching, Nick Caley and Cole Popovich now having more of a direct say into what is going to be coached on the offensive line, and Juice Scruggs figures out, oh, okay, I am a center and I can play the center position
Mm-hmm.
very good, to the very least a Pro Bowl level. Like, that's all I need. And if Scruggs can get better, that already solves the center position because you don't really know what you got at center between
Mm-hmm.
him and Jarrett Patterson. It's like a toss up. The Texans should be looking to cut Shaq Mason in some sort of fashion and replacing at least one of the guard positions. You talked about moving Titus Howard to left guard. Blake Fisher's your right tackle. Laramie Tunsil's your left tackle. So if Juice Scruggs can solve that center position for you, and yeah, I don't have a problem with it.
Mm-hmm.
Texans still need to look at offensive line regardless. But key players, yeah, Derek Stingley is obviously going to get better. Will Anderson doesn't even want an offseason. He was so excited in the exit interviews after the games and everything. He was so excited to get the 2025 season kick-started already.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he feel like their season shouldn't have ended already. And so that excitement is just going to translate into the work process going into this offseason. And you still got no one, you're not losing anybody defensively. Like,
Mm-mm.
the
Your
defense
defense
is,
is here for the next 2 years.
yeah, so you're not losing anybody, main guys is what I
Mm-hmm.
mean. Like, yeah, they still got to look at a Mario Edwards Jr., whether or not they want to re-sign him,
Polo.
Foley Fatukasi, Derek Barnett. Like, there's a few guys that are the depth pieces, and a lot of the, some of the underrated guys on
Mm-hmm.
this defense that doesn't get talked about. But ultimately, man, this Texans team defensively is going to be just fine. Offensively, and the number one guy is number 7. It's the background right here. If CJ Stroud, and like you say, I would say he was a bottom 15 quarterback in terms of,
I could argue 16, 17.
that's what I would say,
Yeah.
and just in year 2. I'm not saying he's 30 or something or
Mm-hmm.
20. I wouldn't even say that, but I would say he's somewhere between 13 to 17, something around that range. And he didn't play his best football this year. He even admitted that he didn't play his best football. But a guy like CJ Stroud and the work ethic he has,
Mm-hmm.
and he's getting a scheme that is already familiar to him. It's just going to be modified a bit more with Nick Caley. So, okay, continuity in the scheme, skipping the Pro Bowl, talked to the media and said, hey, about getting more focused, being more ready for the following year. And
Mm.
he already admitted that it was a lot of this was his fault this past year. Even though we had bad offensive line play, that's what leaders do. You don't blame anybody else. You immediately put yourself in the
You don't tap
forefront.
out in games.
Exactly. You don't tap out in games when, the defense is hitting you too hard and you cry like a baby, and then, you go into the media afterwards and say, "Oh man, I was tired." We don't need that kind of honesty. We need the kind of honesty that translates to work ethic. Because we know we got a quarterback that has work ethic here in Houston, that does not mind the grind here
Right.
in Houston. All right. Nothing like that quarterback over there in Indy. We're over there, don't know what work ethic is. All right. Don't know anything about that. All right.
Mm.
CJ Stroud, ladies and gentlemen, year 3, Nick Caley. That's what you need. Like, you need that year 3 jump. You need CJ Stroud in order to win a Super Bowl, or at least get into this conversation. And by getting into it, like, yeah, we were the final 4 in the AFC, but I can't leave last year and say, oh yeah, we're in the Super Bowl
Yeah.
conversation. Like, no, no. Like, CJ needs to improve so much and put his foot down as a guy that, yeah, I'm a top 5 quarterback. This is what I do. This is how I'm going to be for the future, instead of just 1 year and then, oh, I didn't play so hot. Okay. Hey, turn the page. Let's get back into it. Let's get back into the grind. Let's get the work ethic going up high now. And let's get CJ Stroud back into a top 5 quarterback, because once he does that, then the Houston Texans, they can beat anybody once he's playing like that.
Can't believe we're about to enter year 3 of CJ Stroud.
Don't blink, man.
Dude,
Don't blink.
quick.
Oh yeah, for sure, man. This is how it always goes. Year 3 of them, though, man. I need top 5 quarterback play from
Needed.
CJ Stroud.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
And the number one reason, ladies and gentlemen, why the Houston Texans will win the Super Bowl is because of their head coach, because of D'Amico Ryans. He is still learning how to be a head coach, ladies and gentlemen. He is also entering year 3. But I'll tell you what I know about D'Amico Ryans. I know his defense is going to be elite. I know his defense is going to create turnovers. I know his defense is going to get to the quarterback. You want D'Amico Ryans to get better in the, actual things when it comes to head coach, situations, how to use his timeouts, when and not, to be aggressive. D'Amico Ryans has changed this Houston Texans organization, and we knew this was going to happen when we found out he accepted the job. As soon as he stepped foot into this building, you saw the type of event the Texans threw for him, right? It was a D'Amico Ryans Hall of Fame as soon as he walked into NRG Stadium. He's going to be the reason why we win the Super Bowl, Harley. And hell, he's going to be the reason why we do it this year.
I mean, I mentioned I mentioned when D'Amico Ryans had his press conference here,
Mm,
when he first got introduced to be the Houston Texans head coach. And immediately after that press conference, we had a space. Me and Patrick Storm were on there.
mm,
And I immediately told him the Houston Texans will win a Super Bowl with D'Amico Ryans at head coach. And
mm.
Patrick Storm said, buddy, it's only been an hour since he officially has been named that head coach. You need to slow your roll. And I said, no,
Mm.
this is the guy for the Houston Texans. This is the guy to make it work. And if there's any evidence pointing to that, it's he just fired Bobby Slowick. Bobby
Mm.
Slowick is a great friend of his. And I know people are going to go, oh, well, he chose, it's about business at the end of the day, but that's just something we're not accustomed to seeing when it comes to Shanahan and Kubiak kind of tree guys,
Mhm.
like those guys are always known for keeping their buddies a little too long in the staff, and then they fire them later because that was the popular thing to do. Whereas, yes, it was the fan base had enough of Bobby Slowick,
Mm.
but there was no arrow pointing to, yeah, Bobby Slowick's going to get fired at the end of the year. Like, we didn't know. We had no clue about
No.
this. Yeah, even our media guys, the local media team here that's covering the Texans every day, Like they didn't really have too much of a finger on whether or not Bobby Slowick was going to get fired. So for D'Amico Ryans to fire Bobby
It
Slowick,
was big.
it was, I mean, that was unexpected. Yes, we expected Chris Strausser to be gone, but then you also fired the OC, and then you hired a Nick Cayley, a guy from
Mm.
the Rams and the Patriots, a guy that's worked with Sean McVay. Like these are big time moves from D'Amico Ryans, and this year you got to figure it out. Like
Mm.
this year is big time because if this doesn't work out, then everything I just said is going to be up in dust because this has to work out for D'Amico Ryans. If it doesn't, I hate to have that conversation.
Mm. Well, we're not having it today. Ladies and
Mm-mm.
gentlemen, thank you for being
Or
a
ever.
part of today's or ever, right? Of today's live stream. That was Harley. I'm Ruben. Do me a favor, have a real blessed rest of your day.